What's up, Wastelanders? This is DJ Tic Tac, and I'm here with one of my trusty news sources, Honeymead. Now, Honeymead here is the author of the story Rolling Bones, which is chosen by all of you faithful listeners as the featured fic of December. As his little reward, he gets to be interviewed by me, so let's get started. So, Honeymead, to start off, what got you into Fallout Equestria, and how long have you been a fan?
Well, like so many other people, I saw it on EQD. I saw the story update or the it was an anniversary for it because it was already finished, and I clicked on it. I clicked on a link, and I pulled it up, and I read the intro. I thought the intro was pretty cool. You know, it was an interesting intro. You know, kind of got my attention. It was enough to bring me in to read the prologue, and I read the prologue, and I was hooked. It wasn't even a fight. I gave up and I read it. And I read it and I read it and I read it. And I did nothing at all except work, eat, and sleep until I was finished. My entire life went on hold. It took me about 2 weeks, I think. I started in early March and I ended by mid-March. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. I cannot think of a better way for me to have spent that time. It was probably the top 5 stories I've ever read ever. So yeah, that's my Fallout Equestria tale.
Alright. Why did you start writing your own FOE fic?
Why did I start writing my own FOE fic? Well, the story behind that is after I read the original, I didn't really have a desire to write my own. I didn't think about it. It never occurred to me. Then I read Heroes. And reading Heroes, you know, I think I caught up to it in mid-April, and by that time they'd gotten to DICE, and no one had explored DICE a little bit and given it a life to it, far more than any of the other cities that had appeared in Fallout. And I loved it. I really enjoyed his take on DICE. So I came up with a character idea. That's really where it started. I came up with a character idea that fit, in my mind, perfectly into the atmosphere that was DICE. And Lucky was born. And I sat down one day, and I was like, I'm gonna write this. And I wrote Lucky. And it took me 9,000 words, and I did it in one sitting. And that is absolutely crazy as that sounds. I sat down, and I wrote just about 9,000 words in one go. I think I got 1 cup of coffee in the middle of it. It was the most inspired writing I have ever had, and I don't think it'll ever happen again. But that's where I started. I had a character idea, and I ran with it, and now I'm 65,000 words in, and I'm not stopping yet, and I'm gonna keep going until I finish the story. Yeah, so that's why I started writing. I started writing because of characters, and you'll find out very shortly that characters are my thing.
Do you draw inspiration from other authors, either fanfiction ones or published ones?
Yes, I in fact draw inspiration from everything I do, and that sounds kind of condescending. No, I draw inspiration from everything I experience, whether it's a book, a movie, music, crappy television shows, the people I talk to, it all affects me. It changes the way I look at the world. There are certain ones that affect me more. There's a book I read, and it's a series of books, Sword of Truth series. If you've never read it, I highly recommend that you at least read to book 6. I'll talk about that later, but book 6 for that series, called Faith of the Fallen, completely altered my worldview in a way that I can't even begin to describe, because it was so fundamental a change in the way I saw things. And, some people would say that's a bad thing. People who disagree with that particular author's viewpoint would say it's a bad thing, but I don't care. I take inspiration from everywhere. Absolutely everything I look at gives me inspiration. And if there's anything you look at that doesn't give you inspiration, that doesn't change the way you look at things, it doesn't affect you at all, you need to look at it harder, because you aren't seeing it nearly well enough. Every person you talk to, every conversation you have, should change the way you look at things. Because you're getting somebody else's input. And everybody has a different point of view. And I know that my point of view isn't a complete point of view. And it affects my story. Anything I read is going to affect how I write the next chapter. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's absolutely a wonderful thing. Because I'm improving. Every day, I maybe not so much on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, I'm improving. I'm becoming a better person. I'm learning things that I didn't know before. Simply because I am looking at my experiences and I'm looking for what I can take out of them. And you have to do that. And you, if you're not, you need to start. Because it's going to change your world when you start looking at things differently. So yeah, I draw inspiration from absolutely everything I do, everywhere I go, and everything I see.
Not including your own, what's your favorite Fallout Equestria side fic?
So what is my favorite Fallout Equestria side fic, not including mine? Well, obviously, Rolling Bones is the best side fic. But, since you're making me roll that one out, Heroes, I mentioned before, is probably my favorite. And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, it's characters. Like I said before, characters are what I care about. If I don't like your characters, I'm not going to read your story. I don't have to like your characters. I have to like what I feel about them. And what I mean is, if I need to either like liking them or like hating them. Because if I don't feel something for your characters, I don't care about them. If I hate your character, I feel hate towards your character, I'm going to read about it because I want to see him fail, because I so want him to die or get hurt or whatever. And if I love your characters, then I'm going to read about it because I want to see them succeed, and I want to see them get through whatever horrible things you're putting them through, because that's what always happens in Fallout Equestria. And Heroes does that. Heroes does that spectacularly. Silver Storm, or Hired Gun, or whatever you want to talk about or call her, she is you feel so bad for her because she doesn't know what's going on, and she's trying to do good or trying to get by, and she has such a hard time with it, and you feel so bad for her. And you just want her to succeed. You want to have that one good day where she does it right, even if you know it's not going to happen. But you feel that for her. And for the few characters that we know are villains, you hate them. Cotton Candy or whatever that Steel Ranger is that they blame everything on. You just hate him because he is so hateable. And he's written in such a way that you get it and you hate him and it's good and you love when bad things happen to him. That's the other thing I love about Heroes is Silver Storm doesn't know what's going on. She knows that something's happening, that there's all these things are coming together into this perfect storm of terribleness, and she's trying to save Dice. And that's all she knows. She doesn't know who her allies is. She doesn't know who she can trust. She knows who some of her enemies are. But as far as I'm concerned, some of those guys might end up being the good guys. No one knows who the bad guys are in Heroes. And I love saying that because the author's no one, and no one knows except no one. And no one, yeah. And so you have all these people, or ponies, all these ponies, and 90% of them are bad ponies. They might try and do some good things, but they're all in it for themselves. And that's wonderful, because that's people. And no one does it so well with, you have House and the Mustangs and whoever that mule is, and the Minotaurs and the NCA and the Steel Rangers and the Remnant, and you have Crimson Hoof and all these groups of ponies. And you don't know who the good guys are. You don't know who the bad guys are. And I love that because so many stories all over the place, and a lot of Fallout Equestria side fix, you know who the bad guys are. And, in Fallout you knew who the bad guys were for the most part. And that's okay, but when you don't know, and you're sitting there with the character, and you're like, you want to trust him, but you're not sure you can. It draws you in more because you're more involved in the story. And I absolutely love it. Other things, heroes just, I just think no one is a genius, whether he or she realizes it or not. Stepping outside of, Fallout and moving just to fan fiction, it's a hard choice between, two stories really. My favorite short story one shot is Sunny Skies All Day Long. And it's been so long since I've read it, I can't tell you exactly why, but it's a short read. I think it's like 8,000 words. And it's an absolutely wonderful story. And it's probably one of the first ones I actually read, and I absolutely love that story. Other than that, my favorite long story that's not Fallout is the Doctor Who's stories from Loyal to Luna, because it's like watching the show. It really is, and she is such a wonderful author, and I am sitting here waiting for the next chapter of her story to come out because I absolutely adore her take on the Doctor and Twilight and just everything about those stories. They're absolutely wonderful. If you're not reading those, you need to be reading those. When we step outside of fan fiction and move to published works, the book series I love the most, or at least I did for a long time, is the Sword of Truth series, and that's because it really affected me. Like I said before, it made me look at things differently than I ever thought to. And especially, like I said, book 6, called Faith of the Fallen, is an it tore me to pieces. And I absolutely love it for it. I can't look at the world the same way as I used to. And it is the best thing that ever happened to me. I am so much happier person for having read that story. But I love that story for the same reason I love every other story, because I love the characters. I got so attached to those characters as I read that series that that was the first series to make me cry. I'll admit that freely. I cried in some of those books. The next favorite has to be Wheel of Time, because Robert Jordan, bless his heart, may rest in peace, is the greatest author I think ever. He created a world as rich as K-Cat did, richer, and he took the standard fantasy world, and he didn't turn it on his head. He made a gold standard for it as far as I'm concerned. And it's so full, so completely full and complete that you have 20 different factions, and 90% of them are good guys, are genuinely people who want to do the right thing. They just their vision of what is right is clouded, and they're fighting against each other because they don't trust each other. So 90% of the story is the good guys working against each other, against the bad guys. And that flips everything on its head, because normally it's all the bad guys. There's tons of bad guys, and the only reason they don't win is because they fight each other. No. In Wheel of Time, there's one bad guy, and all the good guys are fighting amongst each other. And it's so just wonderfully put together and complete, and I love it. So yeah, those are my stories. Those are the ones I love.
Now, on to some questions about Rolling Bones. First off, what is Rolling Bones about?
So what is Rolling Bones about? Well, there's something you need to understand about me first. I don't like telling people things. Let me explain that in a minute. When a story has a message, and I'm not necessarily saying mine has a particular message, but when a story has a message, and the author has to sit you down and explain it to you in order for you to get it, then it's not a very good story. So I don't like that. I would like to think that I can write good well enough to not need to do that. So, Rolling Bones. Rolling Bones is about characters. That's what it started at, and that's where it's going to end at. It's going to be about characters. Primarily, it's going to be about two characters. Lucky and a hitherto unnamed character. Not that they have or have not appeared in the story yet, because that would be spoilers, but I'm not telling you who it is. And it's going to be about these characters and what they do, Lucky and his other pony, and that's what it's going to focus. That's the main central point of my story's characters. The second important thing about the story is a bit of lore that I came up with. And when K-Cat wrote Fallout, she wrote it before Season 2 came out, which means that there's a lot of stuff that happened that she couldn't put in because it didn't exist yet. So I'm trying to fill those gaps. And I want to do so without changing canon. So yeah, it's lore that came from Season 2, so that's the only hit you're going to get. It came to me, and it brewed my mind for a little while. And the plot for Rolling Bones changed about 3 or 4 times before I realized that this idea, this extra lore that I could add, would fit really nicely into the story. And so that's what I'm rolling with now. Haha, pun. Yeah, and that's what Rolling Bones is about. It's about characters, and it's about this little extra bit of lore that's the motivation for the characters moving from place to place. So yeah, that's what Rolling Bones is about.
That's always fun. So tell me a little bit about Dice.
So what can I tell you about Dice? Well, there's not too much I can tell you about Dice. I didn't really expand on Dice when I wrote my story. The truth is, I started in Dice because it was a convenient starting point. It was somewhere that people already knew, or at least most people in the fandom who care about Fallout knew about. And it was convenient for my character, and it gave me some good jumping points for his backstory and all that stuff. But I have a thing about canon. I don't like messing with canon. I absolutely love everything that K-Cat wrote in the Capital Wasteland, and I love everything that no one wrote in Dice and Caledonia, and I really didn't want to mess with that too much. So my goal almost immediately after I wrote the prologue was to get out of Dice. And I did that, and I think it took 3 chapters. And now, chapter 7, I get out of Caledonia completely and enter the Capital Wasteland. No, not chapter... Yeah, chapter 7. I get out of Caledonia, and I'm in the Palomino Wasteland, which is my little playground. Palomino is my place. I have a map posted, and it's not complete, and it's definitely wrong for the most part, but it gives you a general idea of what the place looks like. And I don't like messing with canon. So for Dice, I messed around with the Watchers for a bit. And for me, the Watchers were just ponies who wanted to help and were trying to help, but they don't really understand how to help, and so they're not really fixing anything. And that's pretty much all I had for the Watchers. You get a little bit of exposure to Dice, but it's mostly just Lucky's take on Dice, and he has a very stilted take on Dice. Not incorrect take necessarily, but it's definitely his take. He sees it the way he sees it, and he's not willing to pick any bones about it. Yeah, that was a bad pun. I take you to one of the casinos. I take you to the moon, and I give that a little flavor, and I don't remember if it contradicts anything no one wrote or not, but it's all I did, and now I'm out of Dice, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's Dice. That's really all I have for Dice. So yeah, go read Heroes. If seriously, you'll thank me later. Just go read it.
So, about the main character, Lucky. Tell me about him some more.
Okay, so Lucky. You want to talk about Lucky? Okay. Well, let's start with his traits, because that's probably the most interesting thing to start with. Like most characters since Vegas came out, he has two traits. Jack of all, master of none is well, let's be honest here, it's my self-insert. I, like Lucky, pick up on things really easily. It's the basics just come, and I get them, and I don't struggle with it at all. And so to mimic that, he gets 2 skill points for every point he spends on a skill. Up to a point, because he gets, he's real good at the basics, but you start getting the more advanced stuff, it becomes harder and harder and harder until it becomes a literal slog through the dirt and quagmire. And so to represent that at a certain point, it starts taking 2 skill points to get 1 point in a skill. And that's going to come out in the story, and that's going to be probably fairly important at some point. And also the point that he never masters anything. He will never put forth the effort to reach a level of mastery. And that reflects in his personality a lot, because he doesn't like struggling. And that's why I put that in there really, is he doesn't like working. He's sedate. He doesn't do anything he doesn't absolutely have to do. He's a lazy person, just like me. He doesn't want to do work that he doesn't have to do, but he does enough to get by so that people don't complain about him. And that's what I do at work, and that's what a lot of people do. I think most people are like this. There are people who aren't, and I love those people. Those people are wonderful because they make my life easy. And that's terrible, but it's true. And that's Lucky. He's lazy, he doesn't want to do it, and it reflects in that skill, or that trait. His second trait is dare. D-A-R-E. And if anybody in America knows what that means, he doesn't like drugs. He hates drugs. He absolutely despises drugs. All drugs. Not just bad drugs. Not just Med-X, not just Dash, not just Stampede. He doesn't like healing potions. He doesn't like Rad-X. Because they're drugs. And that's how he sees them. So he doesn't take drugs. He doesn't use drugs. He doesn't like using drugs on other ponies. And that reflects in the story pretty heavily in the first couple chapters when he's, doing medical work on other ponies. And he's doing, instead of just using a healing potion, he's taking a needle and thread to him and sewing them up. And, the flip side to that is because he doesn't use drugs and because he hates them so much, they affect him more. And that's a double-edged sword because, healing potion heals him faster and better than would a normal person because his body doesn't have resistance to it, it doesn't know how to deal with it, so the drug affects him, and it works better. The flip side to that is, so does everything else. Drugs are more addictive to him. Even things that would normally not be addictive are addicting to him because his body doesn't know how to deal with it. So things like Med-X, if he would ever take Med-X, he would get high as a kite, and he would probably become addicted in the first use. And that's why I haven't done it yet. I'm not entirely convinced I want to do it, because, it's kind of become a cliche in Fallout Fix that the main character becomes addicted to something or other, and I'm not convinced I want to do that. If I do end up doing it, it's going to be done fairly differently than most, because he's not like everybody else when it comes to drugs. He knows what the drugs do. He knows the symptoms of addiction, and he's going to see them in himself. And so if he does become addicted, he's going to recognize it, and he's going to go, oh hell no. And he's going to go cold turkey. And then, that is a hell in all of itself. So that would be a pretty important thing for him, If he's trying to go cold turkey and then he gets into a gunfight, now it's not going to end well. But so that's his traits. As far as his special goes, he's pretty standard, for a pony. He's pretty much 5s across the board, except he's a little bit frailer, a little bit more charismatic than most ponies. The only thing that stands out is his luck. His luck is 10. He's lucky. His name is Lucky. He's lucky. And that's an important thing for the plot. So I don't want to really get into that too much. But it comes out in the story little ways because that's what luck is. Luck is little things. Luck is not big, huge things that affect your life. No, it's just little things. And it comes out in the story. And so you'll see more of that. And another thing about Lucky that's kind of different than others is he's bisexual. He doesn't care. He is attracted to ponies and really anything sentient on 4 legs. And how much that's going to come out in the story, I haven't decided, because in the first chapter he picks up a mare friend, and I don't want him to be a terrible person who cheats and does stuff like that. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I don't, he doesn't try to. He doesn't go out looking for it. I'm not sure how much that's going to come out. So, but he is, contrary to most, he is not gay. He's bi. So that provides some interesting tidbits of story, and it gives me more freedom with character interaction. That's Lucky, really.
Who pre-reads your fic?
My biggest pre-reader is Doommane. And if you don't know who Doommane is, it's because you don't pay attention to the group at all. He is absolutely everywhere. He's one of the folder mods, I believe, for the Fallout Equestria side flick related fics, or whatever the title of that group is. He's everywhere. He's on the compilation doc for it. He participates in chats and everything. He is all over the place. And he is absolutely wonderful. Everybody should have a Doommane on their fic, because he has kept me from making so many stupid decisions with my story. Like, good lord, there are so many bad decisions I was so close to making, and he stopped me. And he's great to talk to. He's a great listener to your ideas, and with input on them and thoughts. And yeah, everybody should go get their own. Find your own Doommane, because he's mine. You can't have him. He's too important to my story to just give up. Yeah. Props to Doommane. He deserves it.
Well, I don't have any more questions. So, before we go, is there any advice you'd give to other authors?
Okay, so advice for authors. Well, that's a tough one for me, because I don't really consider myself an author. I mean, yeah, I'm a writer at best. And there is a distinction, as I've never published anything. I've published a couple stories and stuff, but I've never finished anything. There's only one story I actually finished, and that's a one-shot, and I never went back to it because of reasons. But advice for authors, well, we're going to start with the obvious one. Stephen King says write 2,000 words a day. And he's right. If you want to write, you have to write. You have to sit down and you have to write. And you have to write a lot. And 2,000 words a day is a nice goal to set. And it's tough. It is not easy. And it is so difficult. Because what's going to happen is you're going to sit down and you're going to be inspired for a little bit. And you're going to write 500 words. And that's it. And you're going to hit a point. You're going to hit a line. It's going to be 1, maybe 3 words, tops. And you're going to look at those 3 words, and you're not going to know what to do with them. And you're going to stop. And you're going to look at the screen, and you're going to stare at that for hours, trying to get this one part right. And then the day's going to go by, and you're going to run out of time, and you have other stuff you have to do. You can't let yourself do that. You have to write. You hit a point that's getting in the way. You skip it. You skip it. You go on as though you got it right. And it's something that I struggle with every day, because it's not easy. It is not easy to let that sit. And you have to. You have to just let it go, because you're going to come back and edit it later anyways. So you hit a point, you hit that stopping point, you step over it, you keep going, you write as though it was right, and you just keep writing. And you'll get better. It takes a long time. I've only been doing this for 9 months. And it takes time, and it's hard, but it's worth it. 2,000 words a day. You gotta do it. Other advice, like I said, you're gonna edit it, and you have to edit it. One thing that somebody told me, and I can't remember who said it, when you're writing your story, you have to believe it's gold. When you're writing those first words on that page, you are writing absolute gold. and then you have to go back and read it again. And when you read it again, you have to see it for the complete pile of shit that it is, because it is invariably a complete pile of steaming shit. And you have to be able to see it that way, and it's hard, and it hurts, but that's what you have to do, because if you don't, you're going to let things slide, and you can't let things slide. It's hard, but you have to do it. You have to go back and you have to look at it again, and you have to look at it with fresh eyes, because if you look at it right away, you're not going to see the stuff. You have to let it sit for a day or two before you come back and look at it. And when you look at it, you're gonna look at it, you're gonna go, why the hell did I write that? And you're gonna edit it. And that's a good thing, because that's where you really learn. That's where you learn the most, is in editing. Because writing is hard, but editing is harder. Because you see all your mistakes. And that's where you learn. So you have to edit. More advice. Bad Horse. If you don't know who Bad Horse is, you check him out on FimFiction. He's a great author, but more than that is he gives some great advice. He says 500 words. The first 500 words of your story are the most important 500 words in your story, because this is where you get people. If you do not get people in the first 500 words of your story, you're not going to get people. It's that simple. He crunched the numbers and he looked at it, and then that's what he decided. The first 500 words are where people stop reading. So you have to get the first 500 words have to be a complete hook. It has to sink into them, and it has to pull them along for the rest of the story. Other than that, like I said, characters. Characters. People love characters. Even people who don't realize they love characters love characters. I don't care if you are the greatest wordsmith ever born, who can make beautiful paintings with words, can come up with the best plots ever. If people don't want to like your characters, they aren't going to care about your story. When you write a character, you have to love them or you have to hate them, and you have to feel it. And you have to make your audience feel it. If they don't love your character, they're not going to care what happens to them. And your plot's not going to matter, and the scenery they see is not going to matter. Characters. Like I said, characters are the most important thing in a story. Get help. You need help. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter. You need help. Get somebody to help you. I have Doomman. He is wonderful. He's a godsend. I don't know what I would do without him. My story would suck. Oh my god, how much it would suck. You need help. You need a pre-reader and you need an editor. Editor's optional. I mean, they're great. Believe me, I love my editors. But grammar's not going to destroy your story unless you're that bad. And it'll hurt a little bit. There are some people who get mad at you for it. But bad grammar does not destroy stories. There are so many stories that reach the feature box that have terrible grammar. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Like I said, having good grammar in your story will help. Having bad grammar is not going to hurt too much. But you need somebody to help you with your planning your story. You need somebody to talk to about your story. I have Doomman. You need somebody. Get somebody. Other than that, plan. If you're just writing, you're going to have so many problems. Oh my god, you're going to have so many problems. And you're not going to know what to do. You're going to get to points and you're going to go, where do I go from here? And you're not going to know. And it's going to destroy your story. I know I have, and this is the best way to do it, is figure out what you want to do in your story. Figure out the most important things in your story. Write them down. And then when you take those things and you write what needs to happen to get to those things. And what you're doing, you're building a pyramid. And you have the most important thing, which is usually the climax of the story. And then you have to plot everything that happens. You have to pick out the other important scenes. And you figure out where those are. And then you have to figure out what happens in between. Because that's most of the story. and you're building a pyramid from the top down. Because what you're doing is you're getting the most important things. And then you're spreading out and you're adding detail. And you should write write down what has to happen, write down an outline, write down short synopsises, expand the synopsises, and then once you've done that and you know pretty much what's going to happen everywhere, you can actually start writing the story. I made that mistake, and it shows. And well, maybe not to other people, but it shows to me. I see those mistakes. And plan. Good God, plan. Finally, fun. If you're not having fun writing a story, your audience isn't going to have fun reading it. So write stuff that you enjoy, and you'll find people who enjoy reading it. That's basic for everything. It doesn't matter if it's art, movies, television. If the people making it aren't having fun making it, the audience isn't going to have fun watching it. So yeah, have fun, plan, get some help, focus on your characters. 500 words, first 500 are the most important. Remember to edit, because the first thing you write is not going to be worth shit. And write as much as you can every day. And that's what I got for you. Hope you enjoyed it.
That is very sound advice indeed. Well, folks, that's all for tonight. We'll do this again next month with another one of you. This is DJ Tic Tac, signing off and wishing you all safe travels.